Hello, everyone. It's time for another Federal Updates podcast. This is Roger Harris, and I am actually in the same room as Annie for a change. We're at the IRS Tax Forum in New Orleans, and this is a pleasure. You're in Dallas, I'm in Georgia.
Yeah, this is very nice. It's hard to think about us being in the same room and doing a podcast, but I'm happy to be here, and the forum in New Orleans is going great.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know about the tax forums, this is the second of 5. We were in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. From here, the IRS will go to Orlando, Baltimore, and San Diego. Great place to get education, CE credits. We're sitting in the expo hall, a lot of vendors that you will deal with. So if you're still looking for some CE, consider the IRS forums. I don't know, some of them may be sold out.
I think some of them are sold out, but I think the San Diego's still got room.
Yeah.
Orlando too, I believe.
And because we're here, we get to recruit some special guests. So not only are Annie and I together, we are just really excited to have Maggie Romanello from Stakeholder Liaison joining us for today's podcast. Maggie, it's good to see you. I see you a lot in Washington, but it's good to see you in a different role here in New Orleans.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Maggie is the workhorse at Stakeholder Liaison.
Oh, I like that.
She comes to all of our meetings that I attend to, and she's the one who listens to us and then responds to our questions, complaints, and she's very honest and very forthcoming, and that's something that I know I appreciate.
Absolutely.
And thank you for taking time out.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I can't say that my forthright personality is always appreciated. I can think of a couple.
Well, it is by me.
Yeah. All right.
I'll speak for myself.
I will keep that as a quote. Thank you, Roger.
You can use that against me anytime.
All right.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for taking time out to do that. I know you've got a table here, and you've got a group of people with you. For those of you who are not familiar with the Stakeholder Liaison, it's not something new. This is not something new this year or even last year. It's been around for quite some time, doing really important work for the community. And so, you want to tell us a little bit about how it came about?
Sure, absolutely. So you and I talked about it briefly when I first met you in the hall this morning. Stakeholder Liaison really began its journey as something called taxpayer education and communication. So back in 1998, the Revenue and Reconciliation Act was signed into law. And of course, we call it RRA 98.
Yep.
And because we have an acronym for
everything, of course. Yes.
And the organization that came out of that for tax professional education was called Taxpayer Education and Communication. And at that time, our primary customers were small business owners and the tax professional community. And so as Taxpayer Education and Communication, we started out, we were pretty new in terms of, we did have outreach individuals within the IRS, but there wasn't like a fully dedicated department. Okay. So it was established as a result of RRA 98. Okay. And we would do a lot of continuing professional education events, a lot of interaction with both small business community-based organizations like Chambers of Commerce, for instance, as well as the tax pro community. And then and Cliff Notes, it evolved over time. About 10 or so years ago, they decided to change our names from Taxpayer Education and Communication to Stakeholder Liaison. And everything else pretty much stayed the same, just our name changed. And then about 5 or so years ago, we were under the umbrella of the Small Business Self-Employed Business Division, which is the division of IRS where compliance lives, collection and exam. We left that division and came under the overall Communications and Liaison organization. And at the time, that was led by Terry Lemons, who has since retired. But he had been attempting, is my understanding, for several years to get us to come over to his shop, and he eventually was successful. And since that time, we have evolved somewhat. We still do continuing education for tax professionals, for example, but we're much more, these are my words, we're much more of an advocate than I would say we used to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in this podcast, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we advocate for our customers to effect change within the IRS. And lest anyone think it's just me sending a quick email to someone, it's a lot more involved than that. I have to really tell a story. I have to put on my salesperson hat. I have to maybe come up with statistics. I really have, and I have to have friends.
Right.
It's not just a matter of picking up the phone and being done. It's not. There's a lot behind it. You have to really demonstrate the value. And of course, anytime you want to affect a change, it's going to cost money. And that's a big factor.
That's particularly now.
So
Yes, right now I can't even imagine the stress related to the cuts and
it is a little
staffing.
tricky. We're hoping that we won't see any more cuts. I don't have anything that says one way or the other what's going to happen. I don't have any direct knowledge, but I do hope that we can at least maintain the status that we're at right now. It is going to require that we sort of do business differently in stakeholder liaison, because we used to be sort of a geographic-based organization where an individual SL might be assigned one state and they did all their work within that state for the most part. Well, we don't have enough SLs now. Well, we never had one in each state. That was an ultimate goal, but that has since changed. So we did lose a lot of people in the past 6 months. So we probably, I think I heard the statistic that we have 36 stakeholder liaison employees, not managers.
Okay.
So that doesn't include me.
What'd you have before?
I think before we had, I want to say we had about double that.
So it's about a 50%
Yeah.
cut.
So I think that's approximate. I don't want to be quoted on that number because it might not be accurate,
And-
but
That's fine.
we've definitely lost quite a few people. Definitely. Because I mean, even the area that I used to cover, I know for a fact we've lost at least a half dozen. So
understand.
anyway, suffice it to say, we're going to evolve. And we've been challenged before. It's not the first time. It probably isn't going to be the
Won't be the
last.
last.
And, there are some things that the tax professional community is going to see as different. For example, we likely won't be able to attend, some of the larger states, tax pro organizations have smaller chapters, right? In California, there's many,
Of course.
Thank you. There's many chapters in California of the tax pro organizations. We're likely not going to be able to do all of the chapter type smaller meetings. We're going to probably have to be using what we call a leveraged model, where we're dealing with larger organizations, maybe statewide, and just ask them to be more proactive in sharing our messages, our ideas, our thoughts, and vice versa. We want to hear what they all have to say as well. I think that's when we came to CNL, that really became a much larger part of what our job is.
So that's going to be the priority. The focus is going to have to be getting that community to be proactive with you instead of you reaching out to them.
Well, hopefully, I'd like to say that we were trying to do that already. It's just going to be that much more important.
You're going to rely on us to kind of get down to the ground level in some instances. You're going to have to keep it at a higher level, and the
Yes.
practitioner community is going to have to kind of pitch in.
We hope, if you're willing. We know you all have day jobs too, right?
Yes.
So how does it work? Like the management part of it, like how the resolution part of it, they give us an example, like someone has X issue and they come to you.
So I will try to think of an example to make it resonate a little more. So very recently, we've been hearing from tax professionals that they have clients that they put on extension,
Okay.
and the extensions were accepted. And now those very clients are getting letters from us asking them for that tax return. And at least in the past, the IRS would not send that letter out if there was an extension in place. So these people have extensions and they're getting a letter, and the letter implies that
They're late.
They're late.
Right.
And so we reached out to the business unit, and basically they came back to us and said, I'm going to really just like put this down to a few words. They basically said, we are aware of those letters and you don't need to worry about it, provided that you have a valid extension.
Yeah, but as a taxpayer, if I got that letter, I would worry about it.
I agree.
So, I'd be
agree.
calling my tax preparer wondering what happened
And
here.
so that is one of the challenges and really the responsibilities for stakeholder liaison. We are your and your client's advocates. So I will call this circumstance progress.
Okay.
It's progress in that we got the business unit to come back and say, okay, yep, we see what happened, and just tell them to disregard it. So believe it or not, that's a feat. I've been with the IRS for 34 years, and those things didn't always. So now our next challenge is to go back to those business units, and it's very nuanced. You have to have some political savvy. You can't go in and attack someone.
Right.
So you and I feel like are representing the same people. And I might be sitting with you at happy hour and say, can you believe it? But I can't go back and say that. So what I'm going to say to the bot is, thank you. But next time, could we, I don't know, put out a press release?
Communicate to the public so that we're not getting.
So right now, the mode of communication is on this topic is just informal, me talking to you, our local SLs talking to our partners, but I don't have an official press release to share. So again, what we're trying to do is just in IRS, other body in their defense, it's difficult to be in a position where every single word you say is going to be picked apart and potentially used against you. We at the IRS make a great villain. We really do. Doesn't everybody love to hate us?
Oh yeah, you're just easy target.
Right.
Just
So
an easy target.
we have to be so mindful every time a press release goes out, every time something is recorded, every time someone says something, we have to be prepared that someone would take that and use it against us later. So what I would say to you is, I totally agree. If I was the average taxpayer and I didn't see a press release, but the IRS is just verbally saying to me, don't worry about it, it can be unsettling.
Sure.
And I understand that. And so my goal is to continue to work with those bots and just say, we need to be a little more, not only proactive, but explicit in terms of not just to say, have us out there talking about, don't worry about it, you're fine, but maybe we need to put something in writing. People like to have something in writing that they can hang their hat on. But at the end of the day, the fact remains, they have valid extensions. And as such,
Well,
they
the
should be
tax
fine.
professional community is getting flack for that too. I mean, your clients get upset with you when
They think we didn't do
messed up.
something
yeah,
right.
right. I filed your extension. Well, the IRS doesn't have it. I don't think you filed it. No, I did. I filed it. I have the
Absolutely.
proof of
I get it. I really do get it.
Yeah, they want you to. They hear it from us, but they want to hear it from you.
Right.
From the
And
IRS. I totally understand. So maybe we can show them this video.
Yeah, we'll just say, hey, come listen to this. Now you're
You file
here.
an extension, you all aren't.
Yes.
Good. Are you? I know you guys are here. So can an individual practitioner walk up to you here and say, "I've got this issue"? Is that kind of why you're here?
As a matter of fact, yes. So we've been collecting issues since yesterday. I did the same in Chicago.
Yeah.
And some of them I can almost instantly resolved. Sometimes it's just a matter of a question / issue. In other instances, it's something that's going to require additional research. And when that happens, I'll either give them my card or I'll take their name down, and either I or someone on my team will call them and follow up and get some of the individual details of what it is that they want addressed.
So if a practitioner is not here and has an issue, how do they get it to SNL? I guess they could come through an association or organization like us.
Could.
But if
they can go to a CE event where there's going to be a stakeholder liaison present. And then the easiest way is to go on the IRS website, www.irs.gov, and in the search box, search the term stakeholder space liaison. And I tested it this morning to make sure it still works. And it actually did.
It did. That's good.
And you click on the link you get a bunch of hits. You click on the link for stakeholder liaison local contacts, and then you are going to use the phone number or email address for the area that covers the state that the tax professional is located. So if they're from Connecticut, which just happens to be where I'm from, they would reach out to the phone number next to Connecticut, and that's the area 2 mailbox, and they'll use the area 2 email address.
And how quickly do they usually get a response?
So, I mean, it should be within a few days.
Yeah.
It should be within a few days.
But it's not like calling the IRS and sitting on hold, and then you get the callback option.
No, and you have an email
things.
address too. So yeah,
Okay.
it should be within a couple of days at most.
Okay.
And we even often at these events, I'll give the direct phone number of a stakeholder liaison out. Those aren't things that are a secret. We don't necessarily publish all SL
Direct
phone
lines.
numbers on the IRS website, because what ends up happening is people call them for account related questions, and we do not have access.
I see.
We don't have that's an important point.
Yeah.
Stakeholder liaisons do not have taxpayer account access. So if a tax pro comes up to me and says, "Can you tell me the status of my client refund?" I can't. You only have access to those databases that you need to do your job.
Right.
And
You don't need that.
deal with taxpayers individually. I deal with sort
The
of bigger
larger
problems.
issues.
Right. But generically. And there are times when I'll go back to a tax pro and say, "Can you give me a list of tax ID numbers where this issue affected these taxpayers?" And then I pass that along to the business unit. But other than that, we generally aren't involved in individual
level of
taxpayer information.
But the good news is an individual tax pro out in the middle of nowhere, not associated with anybody, has access to SNL
Yes, they do.
just like anybody else. And
Yep.
So
They absolutely do.
everybody that's listening, this is a good point of contact.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's just amazing to me. I mean, we've been in existence in one form or another since the year 2000. And just before I came here, there was a gentleman that came up to me and said he had never heard of stakeholder liaison. So there's still more work for us to do to get that memo out. There's still a lot to do. And I joke around a lot about my family because you have to repeat something over and over for people to listen and to fully absorb it. And I joke around with my husband about that all the time, because I will repeat something for him, or I'll be very specific to make sure he gets it. And yet, goes by the wayside. So,
well, it's an important organization. You are doing great work and getting it out to the public that you are available and willing to be proactive and help. That's what we're trying to do here today. So
yeah, hopefully this is helping.
Yeah.
You're probably known in large part because of the help with data breaches. I know we did a podcast. We had Glenn Geezy from your agency come talk about. We can never talk about that enough, even though we dedicated a whole podcast to that topic. But talk about the role that you guys play. Because, I mean, literally, if someone thinks they've been subject to a data breach, you're probably the first person they should reach out to.
I would say so, yes. So I want to make sure that the audience understands the way the IRS defines data breach is that client information has been compromised.
Okay.
So I'm not talking about if the tax professional as an individual is a victim of tax-related identity theft. Let's say he or she goes to a specific doctor whose medical practice was somehow compromised and it affects this one tax pro. That's not what I'm talking about.
You're not personally subject to the breach.
Right.
Right.
We're talking about when a tax professional's e-file software has been compromised either virtually or physically, like physical files have been taken.
Got it.
So it has to be client information that is compromised. So what we were talking about was just to make sure that the tax professional community understands that they should contact their local stakeholder liaison if client information has been compromised. If for some reason it's their individual credential or credentials plural, like their PTIN or their EFIN, then they can, if it's their EFIN, they can call the eHelp desk.
Right.
If it's their PTIN, they can contact the return preparer office.
Okay.
We only get involved when it's client information that has been compromised. And when that happens, we have an intake process where we basically have a software program where we input all of the information for their tax preparation firm, and we input all of the affected PTIN numbers. And from there, from this database, notifications get sent to the various IRS business units that play individual different roles in protecting these taxpayers and honestly protecting the Treasury from eventually having a tax return filed that is fraudulent and having a fraudulent refund go out the door. So each of these different business units has a role in that, but we are the first stop where the actual incident gets recorded and received by the IRS. We also, and in addition to sharing that information with the various BODs, we also kind of hold the tax pro's hand for the rest, if not for the rest of the filing, for the rest of the calendar year, rather, for at least the rest of the filing season. We explain to them what their life is going to look like.
Right.
And we try to give them advice in terms of how they can mitigate the damage as much as possible. And we also advise them about who else needs a notification. So we have a publication that we give to victims, and there's a ton of resource information on the IRS website. But we tell them they have to notify the estate attorney general for any state that they prepare a tax return.
Wow. Okay.
In writing. They have to notify all state revenue departments where they prepare a tax
And nobody
return.
knows.
Right. Right. I wouldn't know that. I mean, I'd go to the IRS website and I'd
Sure.
say like cybersecurity or fraudulent, something like that. And then, but I understand that there are going to be steps
A
and
lot of steps. We
multiple-
advise them to notify their insurance company because a lot of times the insurance company has people on their payroll that will help, including sometimes attorneys.
That's
And then, of course, they have to notify their individual clients
right.
by letter, which I cannot imagine having to do that. And then, depending on the state where the client is located, there may be state requirements. So, for instance, in the state of Connecticut, if you are a victim of a data breach, you have to provide your client credit monitoring. And I want to say it's for at least a year. That may have changed, but each state has its own rules. So if you do tax returns in 20 states, you have to figure out what each of those 20 states requirements
Right.
are and then offer that service or whatever the requirement is to the individual clients within that state. So it's a very, very arduous
And we've probably
process.
all gotten those letters when we've been hacked, and they offer credit monitoring
Yes.
services, but we probably never thought that if it happened to us as a tax preparer, that we have to do the same thing.
You absolutely do. And it's funny because, one of the things that we in Stakeholder Liaison do is retail outreach on a variety of topics. Data breach happens to be a priority topic. And not that long ago, I did a presentation and I used my own experience in the PowerPoint slides. I had received in my household, between my husband and myself, something like 4 or 5 letters within maybe a 3-month period. It was a couple medical companies. I think it was like a concert ticket organization. I'm forgetting what the other one was, but I just
They're
kept getting,
everywhere. I mean,
Yeah, it's
and
like
right. So, it's almost like the first time you get one, you're horrified, but if you get enough, it's almost like white noise.
Yeah.
And, not only do the tax professionals have to be mindful of protecting their clients, but clients have to be mindful of protecting themselves. Because yes, tax pros, when they are a victim of a data breach, the criminals have the ability to prepare a tax return that looks so legitimate. Sometimes the IRS can't tell what's legitimate and what isn't.
I feel like they're getting smarter and smarter,
I
faster
agree.
than our technology and all of our systems can be upgraded to combat with their
I
actions.
totally agree. Totally agree. And so one of the big pushes that we've made in Stakeholder Liaison, just in general, but particularly to tax pros that have been victims of a data breach, is to tell their clients to get an identity protection PIN.
right. Now that everybody can
IP
have
PIN,
one.
yep.
Yeah.
Right.
IP
Yep.
pin.
And if they don't like it, they can opt out for the, if they voluntarily opt in, they can opt
Voluntary.
out. But, those change every single year. So even if a criminal gets your tax information for 2023, even if they had your 2023 identity protection PIN, it changes every year. And so,
And it's free.
and it
they
is free.
send it to you in the mail. So if you have clients that are using that, tell them hold on to that
Absolutely.
that communication.
So some people get it in the mail, and that's particularly those that the IRS mandates they come into the program. And that
Got it.
usually happens when the IRS has actually verified that they've been a victim of tax-related
past.
ID theft. If you want to voluntarily opt in, the way to do that generally is to sign up for an online account using ID.me. And then you go into your online account profile and you click on profile, you scroll down, and at the bottom it says IP PIN, and you click on a number and they give you your IP PIN.
So it's super easy.
It is very easy. Those, when you volunteer, you don't get those in the mail, though.
Oh.
Those you have to go into your online account and get it. There are some instances where you can request an IP PIN by filling out a form. I will just say, in the cases where people are unable to get an online account, maybe they don't have reliable internet, maybe they just don't like technology. We hear a lot of practitioners tell us that some of their older clients don't want to do it. Then they can do it by form. But just keep in mind, as a general rule, and I've said this before, I feel that paper is IRS's kryptonite. We don't want paper.
No.
It's just, even sitting here, I dropped the paper, right? And it could have been lost. Online is the way to go. It's the quickest, most efficient way to do business with us. And if you were just to collect all the errors that can potentially be made with paper, there are virtually none when there's an electronic interaction.
Yeah.
It's very close to perfect. Now I know someone's going to be listening and say, well, I had an experience. Yes, sometimes software upgrades happen, mistakes can be made, and generally those can be fixed. But when it's paper, it's
a lot harder.
Yes. And with the losses of our employees, we have fewer people to process the paper. So it just takes longer.
Yep.
What I find interesting is when you mention online accounts, a lot of these people who we say won't do an IRS account have probably 10 other online accounts they deal with every day that they don't.
Their bank, everything else, right?
So I find it humorous that they won't use the IRS because that's really the best way to solve a lot of these issues.
I agree. And what I have also heard is that a lot of people don't want an IRS online account because the individual taxpayer thinks that by having an IRS account online, that somehow IRS has access to more of their information. I disagree with that. I have a collection background, and we do not get collection information from IRS accounts. We get collection information from the wage and income documents that we already have.
Right.
So we have that whether or not you have an online account. And then, if you're a revenue officer going out in the field to try to collect some past due balance, we ask people where they do their banking, and they generally tell us. And that's how we find out. We find
if
out
they mail
by
you a
asking.
check, they tell you every time they mail you a check.
That's
where
correct.
They bank.
Yeah.
So it's not a source for the IRS to use to levy. And not only that, if you don't owe money, we're not going to come after you for money if you don't owe.
Right.
So
it kind of goes back to what we said earlier about you guys are the bad guys, the whipping boys. So there's a hesitation and a concern that somehow this online account is some secret way to know
Right.
more about people.
Right.
But really, once you get them, and we can spend a little more time talking about it, because now you have business accounts, you have tax pros accounts,
Yep.
and there's all these actual ways to do business that makes our life simple.
I agree. And I'm glad that you brought that up. So individual taxpayers can establish an account using ID.me, and the individual online account allows you to do things like make payments, look at transcripts. One thing that I had come across, and for probably because I didn't have a need for it, didn't fully realize it, but you can sign up for an installment agreement online.
Yeah.
So not having to get on the phone, wait on
That's
hold
nice.
to request an installment agreement. So, there are obviously instances when, particularly if it's like a one-off year, like maybe someone, I don't know, was at a casino and they won some money and now they owe for whatever reason. You go into your online account, request a payment plan, and you will get instant notification of whether or not it's approved. And they provide you with all of the guidelines, like, is what you're proposing sufficient? Will it pay off the liability in full within the 10-year collection statute, et cetera, et cetera. And they, instead of having a call and be scared, you just go into your account and you set it up. So it's really nice. And we now have business online accounts. So businesses are going to start to be able to do more and more with the online account system. I wish I knew a little bit more about it. My information with the individual online account, a lot of it is that I learned it by setting up
Doing
my
your
own
own.
account, and
Yeah.
I play in there.
And you don't have
right?
a business, so
Right. But I don't have my own business, so I don't really have a way to set up an individual online business online account. But what I will say is that you can get some transcripts off of it, and I know that they're working on trying to get more.
Okay.
I've also been told, but to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet, that if you have a business and you want to make an S corporation election, you will eventually be able to do that
That would
online
be wonderful.
and not having to send in that piece of paper.
right.
Right.
So we have been waiting for that one to happen, and we're hoping that that ends up being sort of a carrot for the business taxpayer to actually set up an account,
Yeah.
And to use the system.
to
and
use our electronic
Right.
system.
The business system will get better. The issue with a business is who's authorized for the business
Yes.
to do things, whereas an individual, that's pretty cut and dried. But
Yep.
when you get into business, you've got to make sure who's authorized. But it's getting better.
It is.
And it'll continue to get better. And look, it's just the way of the world. Everybody is on
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. I mean, I don't really write checks anymore.
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
It's very rare.
I rarely go to the bank.
I'm going to insult a lot of people, but the only people that I'm convinced cannot use online accounts are the people who still use a checkbook at the grocery store.
Okay.
And
Right. Right.
when you get behind them in line,
Right. Who do I make it out to?
yeah, and first of all, the checkbook they don't even take out till they know how much it is. You
Yep.
know what grocery store you're in. You know
Oh,
you're
yeah.
going to have to write the check. Can't you
Start.
start that process sooner? But those are the people I'm convinced will never be use online accounts. But everybody else in the world should be using online
I agree.
accounts.
I agree. It's just the best, and it's nice to. For me, I like to pay a bill or whatever that looks like and have it come out quickly. There's nothing worse than
Oh,
someone
right.
holding your check
Check.
for months.
Yeah.
Nothing worse.
So quick question, that when we were talking about the extensions, would those taxpayers been able to log into their online account and see that they did have a valid extension?
They should. They should be able to look at a record of account. A record of account. I want to make sure I give them the right transaction. So yes, if they have an online account, there's different types of transcripts. So I misspoke. It's not a record of an account. It's an account transcript. So there's account transcripts, record of account, tax return transcripts, and wage and income transcripts.
Reports. Okay.
They would look at the record of an account and for the year, so it would be 2024, and they would pull up, and it should have at least part of their name. I think some of it would be redacted, but then about halfway down, I have a transaction code. I think it's 460, but it would say extension request received, and it
With a
would
date,
show the
probably.
date. Yes.
Okay, so that would have been where, those individuals had
Have
an
they,
online
if they have an
account.
online account, it will show
You
up
could have
there.
told them, go look at your
Yeah,
online
go
account.
look at
It'll
your
verify
account.
that they received
Yes.
it and it's not a problem. So again, that helps the practitioners because
Absolutely.
that's how you answer the question.
Right. And then the other kind of account that we've been trying to promote is the Tax Pro account.
Right.
And so with the Tax Pro account, we're trying to facilitate the representation work that tax professionals do for their clients.
Okay.
So a really big feature that we've been trying to get tax professionals on board with is the power of attorney submissions.
Mhm.
So as you know, you can mail us a power of attorney, you can fax it.
Who uses fax? I'm just going to say that.
Was that?
Who uses fax machines?
Well, it's my
IRS.
understanding that people call PPS, and if their POA form is not in our CAF system, then they fax it to the
You still have to
PPS
fax
sister.
some to the IRS
Wow.
if you have a machine.
So, so again, mailing, faxing, but another way to do it is within the Tax Pro account, there is a tool that allows you to upload a PDF. The reason that I'm not a huge fan of that tool is because all that is doing is expediting the arrival to IRS. Someone still has to take that
deal
PDF
with it.
and manually input that information. And
Right.
that's not what we want. So the fourth, which I think is the best way, is the Tax Pro will go into their Tax Pro account, initiate that process. So basically you're filling out a form
Right.
for all intents and purposes online. And then you send it to your client, and then the client will go into their account and approve of the power of attorney. And it's almost, my understanding is it's almost in real time.
I was about to say it's so much faster. It's got to be faster than you can resolve the issue. Then it's on file.
And not only that, if for some reason you still need to call PPS, now it's in the CAF.
Yeah.
It's already there. They can look you up and find you. So again, we really are pushing the online systems, and I'm hoping that little by little people are getting that memo and are going to start use them to the fullest extent, because right now, again, we do have some people that are starting to dip their toes in the water, but we really want them used to their fullest
We
extent.
really need an all-in approach where the taxpayers are getting accounts, the tax professionals are getting
It would be
accounts.
great.
You guys are developing them and continuing to improve the accounts.
Would be great.
It will make all of our lives much simpler and
I
better.
agree. And I will tell you, so again, we try to resolve problems. We also take suggestions. We call it our feedback process. So as an example, I was on the airplane coming here from Connecticut. I had a layover in Philly, and it just so happened that I sat next to a tax professional who was coming here.
Oh.
And it was nice because we ended up talking the whole ride about taxes, two nerds. And the ride
I'm
went
sorry.
like that.
I feel really bad for the people sitting next to you.
I know, right? But anyway, he saw me yesterday in the afternoon, and he said, tell the IRS that if we have a power of attorney, we would like the ability to opt our clients into the IP PIN program and retrieve that IP PIN. I said, okay, I will put that up there.
Good idea.
It's an enhancement, and why not? right? I mean, we want the IP PIN, and that way the client, if they lose theirs from the mail
You can
or
still
whatever,
get it to
exactly.
complete the tax return, right?
Right.
Yeah, that seems so simple because that power of attorney gives us so much power to do things much more
Absolutely.
than that.
And it's a benefit to the client too. Like, okay, you got me an IP pin. Okay, you know where it is. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I the longer I work here, the more I realize how much hand holding you all do for your clients.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes maybe too much, but
yeah, and you
maybe.
know, it's like frankly, it's a business decision, right? Like so, and that's, you know, I wouldn't even attempt to advise someone on business decisions, but it is really
That's a simple
amazing to
one.
me.
well, there's so much of it. It actually makes our lives easier.
I agree.
And we should adapt everything that makes our life easier, makes the client's life better,
Sure.
and allows us to communicate with you guys in a more effective way.
I agree.
You know, and we have to be, I think, a little more forceful at times with these clients that are kind of saying, I don't want to do it.
Yes.
Well, you know what? You do it for everybody else. Do it.
Yep.
Do it for us and do it for the IRS. One other thing, because it's so, I don't think people realize we have so many disasters around. It seems like every day there's a flood or a hurricane or a tornado. Talk about what your role is in that, because I don't think people associate
Sure.
Stakeholder Liaison with disaster.
Sure. So we do outreach on the topic. We try to help our partners to prepare for a disaster. How, you know, if a disaster, and this is more than just, we're going to have a storm in 2 days. We're talking about long-term planning in advance, sort of rainy day planning, pun intended. So we do a lot of outreach on how to make sure that if there were a disaster,
So the preparation, the preparing for disaster,
Yes.
not just the what happens after.
Right. Absolutely. And when when a disaster does take place and a disaster declaration is made and it offers individual assistance, meaning the IRS maybe is extending certain deadlines for taxpayers in affected areas, right? When a disaster is declared, a lot of times you'll see local stakeholder liaisons at the FEMA sites, and we staff those sites. We advise people what some of the help is that is available to them. And at those FEMA sites, a lot of times there will be other federal agencies and state as well offering whatever their services are. And I just know that recently in Southern California, the SBA would have been there. And if you are looking for some type of loan from them, a lot of times they want a copy of your tax return. Well, how are you going to get that? So what we were doing was we had people coming over to us. We were helping them set up an online account and we would print a copy of their tax return and then they would walk it over to SBA and get their loan started. So we do try to literally help people one by one
on the ground
these. And in fact, people in California were staffing those sites 7 days a week, including nights, for 2-3 months. It just I think it ended in the end of May. So we had people really putting on a lot of their own time just to help. And it was great. It was really, they loved the experience, and they really seemed, the people that I am aware of that were a part of my group at the time were really happy to do it. So I was really proud of them.
Is that an area that's going to suffer because of the cutbacks, or is that an area that, I mean, hopefully
disaster in general.
Hopefully disasters will slow down, but
so you know what I say is, I guess we're going to have to see. You know, sometimes what happens is we're sort of trying to balance. We're juggling balls at the same time. And if we were, God forbid, to get a disaster in a state where we don't have a local stakeholder liaison present and they needed someone there, then we would have to, you know, fly someone in, but we have to get permission. We have to get the money to do that. So there are going to be steps that have to be taken, and we're going to get to have those permissions. So the best we'll do is we're going to ask, we're going to really try, and we'll do our best. But even if we can't physically be there, we will at minimum provide contact information for those people, and we will talk to them, we'll call them, we'll provide them publications, we'll answer questions,
Resources for
at least over the phone, even if, and I'm not talking about a toll-free number, I'm talking about a stakeholder liaison will help those people that are involved in a disaster. But I mean, I have no reason to anticipate that we're not going to be allowed to go. It's just going to be a little trickier because like in California, the people that we're helping, we're all local to the California area.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We don't have an SL in every state. Again, though, you know, I think we're up to the challenge and I don't anticipate us figuring out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, nobody asked for a disaster, nobody plans for it. And it's one of those areas where you hope that when you're needed, that you'll be able to
get there,
to deliver what they need. What else do you want to say to the tax prep community? I mean, the tax practitioner community. What else is the message you want to make sure they get about your organization? Because like I said, I think it's a great organization, but as we said before we started, there's just still a lack of understanding of what you do and how to reach you. And what have we missed so far?
So I would encourage people, if they don't know who their local SL is and they are a member of an organization, of a formal tax pro organization, to talk to their organization leadership and request that they have SLs invited to some of their meetings to speak.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we love to do.
Yeah, and I think that's something people don't realize. You guys will come to meetings.
Yes, we will.
And do what you're doing here if you're at.
We absolutely will. And we love that.
You've got several people here for this forum, and I'm guessing you go to all of the forums.
Yes, I and my boss, as well as my colleague, Mark Zine, we are going to be at all the forums, and we've been coming to the forums for quite some time. Although I want to say maybe the first year face-to-face, I can't remember right after COVID if we were at those, but suffice it to say, we are here at the forums, and but we're at all kinds of tax pro events, national events. Again, we've done more local in the past that I think we're going to have the ability to do in the future.
And you'll come for free, or is there a fee associated?
No, we come for free. Come for free.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we come and we give, and a lot of times too, we're able to bring other subject matter experts. So we can talk about a lot of topics, and we know about a lot of the inner workings of the IRS. But if you were to need a really technical presentation on, I don't know, maybe an international topic or something, we could very likely get a speaker for that. And sometimes too, we'll do a national webinar. That's another program that we oversee, is the IRS's national webinar program. So a couple times a month, we put on national webinars for free continuing education. You get 1 or 2 credits depending on how long it is. And we have subject matter experts that come on and talk about a given topic. And sometimes they're very technical. Sometimes they're more general. But again, we've had a really big success with those. It's not uncommon for us to have attendance in the thousands at these. And
that's a great way to get, disseminate information, resources.
Information and free CEs.
Yeah.
And it's right at your desk.
You don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
Well, I mean, again, it's an organization that is underutilized, I think, by us, because we don't understand what you will do and can do.
Understood.
Hopefully the budget cuts won't cut back too much.
I think with my boss, Derek, at the helm, he's going to make sure that we are better than ever.
Going to be creative.
Yes. And we can be. And that is one thing that he is creative. Again, it's going to be a challenge. We're going to be leaning on our partners more, but I think we're up to the task, especially if we continue to get feedback and suggestions on ways that the IRS can make improvements, because every time we make an improvement, it's potentially fewer phone calls that are being made to the IRS, fewer pieces of paper that we're having to process, right? Like the S-Corp election I was talking to you about a little while ago. Fewer problems that need to be resolved, the more we increase and improve our technological capabilities.
So between the two forums, have you gotten the same issue presented to you?
So I'll put it this way. I will say the short answer is yes, but I don't necessarily think they are. I've heard some of the same, I'll say, complaints.
Okay.
I haven't heard all of the same suggestions or issues. So as an example, I've heard people say our phone services are getting bad again.
Right.
So that is feedback that I do share. But it's not like an issue management resolution system or the IRS program where I can work with a BOD to try to implement an improvement. A reprogramming of a computer isn't gonna fix that.
Right.
However, we've had suggestions. I can't say I got it at this one. I think I may have gotten it in Chicago that we're working on that says, can you expand your callback feature?
Okay.
When you call the toll-free number, can you expand it to all telephone lines? So very specific suggestions that involve some kind of a change, as opposed to the phone lines are long and that would potentially involve hiring more people. And we just lost a lot. So I don't know what the chances are of hiring more telephone assisters right now. Again, I'm more interested in solving or getting people to go online and find the solution or the answers to their problems online, maybe getting a transcript as opposed to calling us for one.
Gotcha.
I want them to focus more on the self-serve stuff than just getting on the telephone and waiting on hold.
Yeah.
So that is my goal.
I've got to pay a compliment to Maggie. You started by saying you're an advocate. And yet I think sometimes we want you to be a miracle worker.
I like that.
And
I'll take that.
because I know it's got to be frustrating for you, because I know at our meeting, the practitioner community will come to you and say, you need to fix this, 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 and this. Then you'll go back to the BODs or whoever, you'll give them the suggestion. Sometimes you'll get a solution. Sometimes you'll have to come back and say, we can't do that. And so you're kind of caught in the middle.
We sometimes are.
And
We sometimes are.
I just want to say, we appreciate your efforts and you being our advocate.
Thank you for saying that.
But we know that you aren't a miracle worker.
Well, sometimes what happens is, being in the center, the IRS business units that I deal with don't always understand your perspective.
Right.
And so it's my job to present your perspective to them and why it is that when a client gets any letter where their return address is from the IRS, there's a decent chance that they're not going to even open it. Right?
From fear?
Yeah.
Yes. So I have to present that perspective to them, but then I need to present their perspective to you. Maybe it is, well, if I make this one change that you're asking for, down the line, it's going to cause a million other problems that you not only wouldn't consider, but you would have no way of even being aware of. Yeah. It's a very difficult task when you have tens of millions of customers.
Yeah, I mean, everybody sees everything from their perspective.
Exactly.
And so it seems simple to me.
Right.
It may seem a little more complicated to you, and then a lot more complicated to
exactly.
Right.
And we have to all be willing to accept, we do the best we can. And as long as we're working together to make it better, we should not be satisfied, but at least we're heading in the right direction.
I totally agree. It's just funny though, when you were making those comments, if I had a dime for the number of times I've heard someone say, why can't the IRS just fill in the blank? Well, because there's 900 millions of other clients that it's going to affect negatively. We just can't make one small change because it's only going to affect you. Right. Yeah. Any change we make has the potential to affect millions of people, and we just can't always do it.
No.
Wow. Well, I've learned some stuff today.
Yeah.
I mean, you do more than I thought y'all were doing.
Oh, really?
And so this is eye-opening and this is fantastic. And thank you for all the hard work that you and your team put into this.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I'm really enjoying this recent gig. And again, I do just want to remind people that if they want to know who their local stakeholder liaison is, you go to the IRS website. In the search box, you enter the search term stakeholder liaison, and I'm going to read from my notes again. You click on the link for stakeholder liaison local contacts, and then you use the email address or phone number for the area that covers the state that you're located in.
Maggie, thanks. This has been fun.
Yeah.
It has been.
It's good to do it in a different, I mean, I see you in DC and we're across tables but to have you for an hour, I guess, to just talk, it's been,
It flew right
been great.
by.
Yeah. And thank you for all you do. And thank you
My
for
pleasure.
joining us.
My pleasure.
You have an open invitation. Anytime you want to come
Thank
back, you
you.
got something new you want to say, just let us know.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any final thoughts, Annie?
No, I was going to say, what's up next for our podcast? I'm trying to think what we have coming down the line, but we've got OB3 for sure. We know we're going to be talking about that, and we've got some other guest speakers.
I think Maggie's
joining us.
group's got a couple more messages they want us to help get out on.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you'll
So
hear more from
definitely
Stakeholder Liaison.
Continue to listen
forward.
and chime in, and we'll be back.
Sounds good.
And I'll see you in Orlando.
All right. You certainly will.
All right. Thanks to everybody. Thanks for listening to another Federal Tax Update podcast. Tell your friends, join us again. Thanks to Maggie. Thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.